Mr. Rocky Bleier, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here with you.
I'm thrilled you're here. I enjoyed reading your book. We have enough questions for a 4-hour podcast, so I hope that works for you.
It works for me.
We're going to blow right through lunch and just keep going. But so I'm going to set the stage here because I think with our time here, I really want to get to something really important about adversity. So it appears in your younger life, at least when it came to athletics, not a whole lot of adversity. At Xavier High School, you went 82-1 in football, 11-time Letterman, got recruited to Notre Dame. 1966, you guys were national champs. 1967, you were a captain, got drafted in the NFL. And then August 20th, 1969 happened. Can you give us some context about what led up to that? Because it seems to me there'd be just a big shift from all the success, and then you're in a different place at a different time, facing entirely different challenges. Can you maybe tell the audience a little about what happened that day and what led up to that?
Well, okay. So what led up to going to Vietnam? Let's go back to that era. Go back to the latter part of the '60s and so on. And so I was coming out of college, and I got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers to be able to play ball. And so my whole focus was just to do that. And to see where it would take me. I was the 417th person picked in the draft that year, a highly touted 16th round draft choice out of 17, but anyway, who's counting? So I got there, and we went through training camp and so on. And towards the end of training camp, Bill Austin, who was the head coach at the time, took me aside and said, "Listen, I got this letter that came in the mail. It was open accidentally. We think you're good enough to make this team, and we will take care of this for you," which happened to be my 1A classification. I was eligible for the draft. And in the back of my mind, so this was not that I had a whole lot of experience, but from what I had gleamed from watching the Green Bay Packers, because I grew up in Wisconsin,
Sure.
is that most of those players, or some of those players, would be in the reserve or the National Guard, take care of the obligation to it. And I just thought maybe that was a policy. But this was 1968, height of the war. Spots were filled, reserves were filled, and so a couple months went by, and so I asked him about, did you hear anything about taking care of this? And they said, the Steelers said, well, we're having a little problem. You know, the general retired, the congressman got defeated, all their contacts were out of order. Then shortly thereafter, I received my draft notification. And went to basic training. And just, it was like, boom, no time. Actually, the letter somewhat was delayed or got lost because when I got it, it said, "Greetings. We'd like to inform you that you've been inducted into the armed services of your country to report on this date," which happened to be the next morning at 7 a.m.
You had like 12 hours notice.
12 hours to go home, my goodness gracious. So my world was turned upside down. I'm on the phone trying to call my parents, who's going to pick up my car, how do I take care of this stuff, and because I was gone. And so it was gone. To some degree, as I look back on it, and I'm thinking, I didn't have to worry about it. Now you're in a reaction mode.
Yes.
You're just reacting to every situation that took place and going into, again, into basic training, then advanced infantry training, and then on and on, and eventually wound up in Vietnam.
Yeah. So what happened on August 20th, 1969?
In Vietnam, and we operated in an area, and so in that area, the battalion, so 4 companies, there would be 2 in the field at one time, and then 2 on mountaintops or landing zones, and so you just rotate off of one up to another and so on. So we were in the Hep Duc Valley, and we were on LZ Siberia. Sister company was in the field, and got attacked, and so they were in a firefight, and so we came off to get them out of the hot spot, and when we did, it was late at night by the time we got there, and so we were to pull everybody out, the front and rear security, and get them out of that area. Those who had died, those who got killed, we were carrying them out. So we got to a point, so we were carrying them out, and we got into another firefight. And so we left the bodies. And then our mission was come back. It was a day later, or 2 days later, come back and pick up those bodies. And as we're coming back into that area, we got hit again. And so there's a big firefight that was taking place. And so we were diving into rice paddies and we just get out of the harm's way as best we possibly can. And my responsibility, I was carrying a grenade launcher. And so I was there was a machine gun position on top of the hillside, so my responsibility was get some firepower on that. And so I turned and breached a grenade, and that's when I got hit the first time. And discharged that round, dropped back behind some protection. Again, we were in another firefight when they probed our area and got close enough when a hand grenade came flying through the air and hit my commanding officer in the middle of the back, bounced off of him and rolled between my feet, and before I could jump out of the way, it blew up through both my feet and my lower legs. And then a sister platoon finally fought its way down and dragged us out of there, and we got to a security area and then went on from there.
What was combat like? Well, it was like 16 years of Catholic education. It was like that. You see, I thought I could be flip about it. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to think about how ridiculously unfunny it really was. And so when the bullet entered my thigh and I was laying on the ground, blood was pouring in my pants, I did think about nuns, one in particular, my 6th grade teacher. All the stories that she told us about those soldiers in Korea in World War II, and when the blood started to flow, they started making deals. That's how some of them became priests. And I thought to myself, that's where I'm starting my bidding. Okay, you get me out of here, and I'll become, well, I wasn't going to become a priest. Okay, what else you got? Now, in 4 days, I was going to go to leadership school where I had the chance to test out of combat, but this was not August 24th, this was August 20th, and bleeding was the best you could hope for because guys are dying, not making deals. So the bullet in my thigh and panic in my chest, I still have my weapon, a grenade launcher. And let me tell you this, I was launching grenades not knowing where they were landing. I put my head down for a moment, maybe reconsidering the priesthood, when all of a sudden on the corner of my eye I saw a grenade come flying through the air and hit my commanding officer in the middle of the back, bounced off, rolled between my feet, and before I could get out of the way, it blew up through both my feet and my lower legs. And again, we were in another firefight. So a sister platoon fought its way down, eventually dragged us out of there, carrying us out of harm's way as best they possibly could. I was on a poncho liner, 4 guys were carrying me 165 pounds of dead meat, till they couldn't carry me any further. They said, don't worry, we'll send a stretcher back for you, we'll get you out of here. When all of a sudden, out of the darkness, unbeknownst to me, I see these 2 black hands reach down, scoop me up, picks me up and throws me over his shoulder and starts carrying me to the helicopter. Now the helicopter was a long way away. This black man will put me down, my blood all over him, catch his breath, pick me up again, and continue on until he got me onto the chopper. And I never saw him again. I didn't know his name, didn't know where he lived, didn't know where he came from. But I'm here today because of a colorblind soldier back in 1969 who saw not that he was black and I was white, but that blood was blood, and he did for me more for me that day than if I was his own brother. In some sense, we did become brothers in that brotherhood of war. And so I got to an aid station, got patched up, went to Tokyo, where I spent 3 weeks in hospital before I came back to the States and spent 9 more months in the hospital.
So you go from professional athlete, right? And here you are in recovery. Tell me about your mental state and your dreams of, now at this point, you're still a very young man. Did you think you could get back to the Steelers? Did you think that dream was over? And how did you overcome that?
I think this, which is that, and I'm not just saying athletes, anybody growing up in a neighborhood, You're playing in the backyard. You know, there's certain things you learn is that you get hurt. You know, you might not even be coordinated and you get hurt. You know, you fall over, you sprain your ankle.
That's what it was like for me. Yes, I understand.
Right. You stub your finger, you know, you go, oh, it hurts, you know, and so then you go see the doctor, and the doctor does whatever he needs to do, gives you a wrap or whatever it is, and then you heal, and then you're back out playing again, you know, so it's that kind of a cycle that takes place. And so that was kind of the cycle that I was in. All right, okay, now, part of the thing was I didn't lose a limb. I didn't lose a leg. I didn't damaged, but you know, so you go like, okay, fine. However long this is going to take, we'll see, and so on. You know, it's somewhat depressing, but I think along the line there are a couple things that, you know, that, or at least in my experiences, that, you know, that help you along the way. And I remember the first time I was, we were in an aid station coming out of the field, an aid station, you got a morphine and IV drip, but what goes through your mind are all those questions, you know, why me? Now what? Where am I going to go? I had something, you took it away, but where's my future in all of this? And the interesting thing, there was a young soldier across from me who was a triple amputee, lost his left arm and both legs. And every day that I was there in that ward, the aides would come to take him to therapy, and I'd watch him grab that little trapeze that swung over his bed, swing his torso into the wheelchair as he best possibly could, and they would push him out. Now, he stopped at every bed in that ward, and it wasn't a big big ward, but he would stop and see all the fellow soldiers. And he stopped at my bed. And he said, hey, how are you doing today? You know, I have to tell you this, you know, you look better today than you did yesterday when you came in here, because yesterday, let's be honest, you look like shit. He said, now we got some good docs here who take care of you and we'll get you out here. And I thought, wow, I mean, if anybody could be embittered, would be that young soldier, but yet he had this positive attitude. And I thought, wow, I mean, if he had an attitude like that, what about me? I'm gonna walk someday. And you know, those little stories of that, so I get to Tokyo, and so I see my physician there, and after a couple weeks in the hospital, I finally get enough courage to ask him that question. What about my injuries? Do you think I can come back and play this game of football? Now his response was that, well, he chuckled over that question, and he said, well, don't worry about it. You're gonna have a normal life. You're gonna be able to do the things that normal people do. Just don't expect to get back in the gridiron. You won't have the strength, flexibility to do the things that are necessary to be a running back in the NFL. So what he had formulated was a perception about my ability. But as my authority figure, I mean, just think about it. He just kind of sucked that hope right out. 2 days later, unbeknownst, I get a postcard in the mail, a simple postcard. It said, Rock, team's not doing well. We need you. Art Rooney. I go, wow, somebody needed me. Well, they didn't need me, but somebody took the time to care. And being the family that they were, and Art was that kind of a guy, Mr. Rooney was that kind of a guy, and so he just reached out, and it came at the right time, you know, so you go, okay, fine. So it builds some hope. So you have to just go through that whole process, and you know, so ultimately, you know, I spent 9 months before I get out of the service, but it heals, and you know, and I write a letter to Mr. Rooney, and I'd like to. He said, "Do you think I could come to training camp?" And he said, "Well," he said, "Let me talk to Dan, his son, and I think, and you know, talk to the coach, and I'm sure we can find a spot or something of that nature." And so I came back, but the interesting thing is that they bought me a year that year. And limped through training camp, but they put me on injured reserve. So they bought me some hope. Okay, kind of hanging around. So I got the injured reserve. So I came back the following year, a little bit bigger, stronger, and I made the taxi squad, or the developmental squad as it's called today. So they bought me 2 years. Kind of 2 years to heal, 2 years to get stronger, 2 years to hang around, and so you have to do something with that opportunity. And so I did. By 1972, I came back, and got a chance to. I came back. And I tell this and to people is that I was the leading ground gainer during the exhibition season. Thank you very much.
It's something. It's something.
It's something. But we got 6 exhibition games. Okay, so I'm leading anyway. So good enough to make the team. Never carried the ball. But played special teams. But I made the team. Came back again in 1973. Bigger and stronger. I weighed 218 pounds.
Okay.
I bench pressed 460 pounds. I squatted 650 pounds. And I had 18.5-inch biceps. And you know how come I knew that? Because I measured them myself.
Every morning when I woke up.
So anyway, so Chuck Knoll is now the new head coach, and so this was the transition of the story was that we had just hired our first conditioning coach.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and weightlifting coach, because finally at that moment in time within the industry, was that they found that if you don't maintain strength, you go downhill from a strength point of view, and so we started this whole new program, and Chuck goes, he explains the program, and he looks at me and he said, "What we don't want or any bodybuilders." I'm going, geez, I busted my butt.
You had to put your arms down and stop flexing?
That's right.
The Mr. America pose? Oh.
But the point was that I was the leading ground gainer again.
Yeah.
Okay. To make the team. And I tell people the only reason that I was the leading ground gainer wasn't because I was bigger, better, faster than all the other running backs, was a simple fact that I played more than anybody else because they're trying to make a decision whether they're going to keep you. I carried the ball more than anybody else, so I better be the leading ground gainer because of just a chance to be able to make the team. Anyway, so I made the team. But 73, and here is another crucial, 73, or the coming year, in my mind, 74, to make the team again, I was going to have to fight with every free agent, draft choice, rookie, to do so. And I didn't think it was fair, not that life's fair. I just thought, hey, maybe my life's going in another direction. I did come back. I did make the team. I got a chance to play. Maybe not to the level I thought, but hey, that wasn't the agreement or I made in the rice paddy in Vietnam. So, so I left the team. I left the team after 73. I was living in Chicago, trying to find my life's work, as Chuck would like to say. When I got a call, and here's the key, when I got a call from a teammate, coming into Chicago, big sports center taking place, Boys and Girls Club sponsored by the NFL, guys are coming from all the league. Why don't you join me? I hadn't seen you since then. It'd be great to get together again. And I declined because I'm not going back. He pushed, I declined. Then he asked me the big question, why?
This is Chuck Knoll.
No, this is my friend. This is,
this is your friend. Okay.
I was a teammate, Andy
it.
Russell. This was Andy Russell, who was captain of the team, and he was coming into Chicago for this kind of banquet. And so he said, why? And I said, well, I quit. I'm not going back. And basically, he said, you can't quit. He said, if you quit, think about it. What you've already done is you've already made a decision for the coaching staff. Do you like them well enough to make decisions for them? He said, no, your responsibility. If this is what you want to do, is you come back and you make them make a decision. You back them in the corner. You give them every reason to keep you or release you. But you don't cut yourself. The reality of this game is we're all expendable. The reality of this game is we all can be cut at any time. But if this is what you want, then you don't cut yourself. And maybe it was just the arm twisting I needed, and I went back. And everything I perceived did take. Oh, and I had a fight with every free agent, draft choice, and rookie to do so again. Leading ground gainer during exhibition season.
Yet again. So I want to ask you about Art Rooney Sr. I think, in my business, and every person out here who's going to be listening to your keynote, I think what every organization or every team wants is multi-generational, sustained excellence. And as a long-suffering Bears fan, yes, 1985 team, the greatest team of all time. It's undisputed. We don't need to talk about it. Okay?
That's right.
That's right. The Steelers have done that through multiple generations. When the Steelers have a bad year, they kind of look around and like, let's just scratch out 9 wins. If they're good, you're going to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
You've been exposed to the organization, been involved still today. What have you seen from a leadership standpoint from the Rooney family or anything else in terms of an insight into leadership that leads to that, or is it a crucial element?
Really, the change came when Dan Rooney took over. When when Art's son took over, and Dan now passed away. But the chief was an outgoing guy. You know, he was a promoter. He was a boxing promoter, and Hallis was the one that talked to him into buying a franchise, and because they all gambled together, and you know, and so on, and so. He moved a Northside Sandlot football team. His brother ran, and so into the fledgling NFL. So he was good at selling tickets and promoting and so on. And then anybody who was his friend would be the head coach. Okay, whether you're qualified or not qualified. You know. And so for 40 years, they lost or were destined to lose and so on. So then Dan came in. He said, let's change the operation. We've got to bring it into the 21st century, you know, and really take a look at who kind of people. And that's when Chuck Knoll came available. And there was multiple meetings, but Chuck's philosophy was like Dan's philosophy and what he wanted to get accomplished and how he wanted to build his team and so on. And so it meshed. And they're the type of family that aren't going to do a knee-jerk reaction if all of a sudden you have a learning, you know, a difficult season. So over this period of time, 1, 2, 3 coaches, and they've done a great job of getting good talent, you know, right talent, taking time, you know, not any knee-jerk reaction. In the past, building their teams, and so they've been down. But if you look over that next period of time of years coached, they've got a winning season, and so. A lot of times, if you go in now, I mean, if you went 9-5 and out of a 14-game season, 9-5, you know, which was not a bad season, 9-5 or 8-6, you know. So they're always right within that mix, and sometimes they get lucky and go on further than that. But how do you change? You know, I mean, coaches, and so. The personality of those coaches all fit into the personality of the Steeler organization. Dan, what they're trying to do, how important it was to take care of the player, and that philosophy of getting the most out of the players, rather than a knee-jerk reaction of trying to change.
That first meeting we had with that brand new head coach we got, by the name of Chuck Knoll, almost many years ago, I thought was a pretty courageous act on his part. Whereas he stood before us like this, introducing himself to his brand new team, he said this to us. He said, gentlemen, over the last 5 months that I've been your new head coach, I've watched every film of every practice of every game that you have participated in over the last 3 years. And I can tell you why you've been losing. Because you're just not any good. You have no technique, no discipline, and in some cases, some of you just don't have the talent to be able to perform on that level. And if you're not going to perform on that level, then I'm going to have to go out and find some people who will. And so in the draft that year, we went out and got a guy by the name of Mean Joe Marine out of North Texas State. Following year, went to Louisiana, got a pretty good broadcaster. Out of that quarterback by the name of Brad Shaw. Same year, got a corner back out of Southern University by the name of Mel Blunt. Then went up to Penn State, got a linebacker by the name of Jack Ham. Following year, teammate, running back, Franco Harris. Picked up a couple of receivers, Lynn Swan, John Stallworth. Got a middle linebacker by the name of Jack Lambert. And a safety by the name of Donnie Shell. Teammates who now all reside in the National Football League Hall of Fame. So you see, people with talent, definable talent, raises the standards for the rest of us and makes us better teammates, better co-workers, better coaches, better managers, better owners. But talent alone can't do it. I mean, I can have a room full of talent. It really takes leadership to be able to define that talent. mold it together, and bring it to the top.
Well, you see that so often, I think, in any sports now, and a lot of pressure now, but the minute something doesn't go right, the minute we have a losing season, we just kind of yank it. And I think you look at Chuck Nolan and Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin, it's kind of like, yeah, sometimes things aren't going to go right, but if you trust these people and let them do their jobs, good things can happen over time. And just kind of that, I mean, I think it's obviously teamwork is a word that's probably too large, but like the fact that you build that trust over years is just fascinating
right.
to me.
I mean, Chuck's personality, and and that's all I can. I mean, Chuck was not a yeller or a screamer. He just had certain expectations, and they only wanted to do is have you live up to those expectations. Be on time, and know your assignments. Don't showboat. You can have an emotion within the game, but Chuck said, but I don't want any fake emotion, and so no one's pumping their arms on the sidelines, give you a look like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, all right. Part of my job is to make sure that I don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
And you show up on time for your keynote. So I am thrilled to learn more about you from the stage in front of these couple hundred people. And I appreciate you making time for this. And we're going to record that. So thank you for your service. Just reading your book, I put the book down. I looked at my wife and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I'm like, look at what this guy's done. I mean this. Thank you for time. You're an inspiration. I'm excited to see you out there.
And I was very fortunate for those years that I played that team in Pittsburgh that they now allow me to wear those 4 Super Bowl rings from Super Bowls 9, Super Bowls 10, Super Bowls 13, Super Bowls 14. Do you know how many Steeler fans it takes to change a light bulb? Don't hurt yourself. The answer is 5. 1, of course, to change the light bulb. The other 4 to talk about how great the 70s were. Anyway, 74, 75, 78, 79, 1 against the Minnesota Vikings, 2 against the Dallas Cowboys, and the 4th against the then LA Rams. But you have to understand, having 4 Super Bowl rings poses a lot of problems to me. Because no matter where I may go, it raises a myriad of questions like, well, geez, Rock, I mean, you got 4 Super Bowl rings. Do you change them every day? I mean, how do you decide which one to look at? I mean, which one's better than the other one? Which one do you like more than the other one? Well, I have to tell you in all honesty that this one that I wear on my right hand from Super Bowl 13, the second time that we had played the Dallas Cowboys, is the one that I wear all the time. And for various reasons. 1, happened to be the best game I played in all 4 Super Bowls. Second, it was the only game in all 4 Super Bowls that I had scored a touchdown in. But you also have to understand, see, that it was just not an ordinary touchdown. Okay, it was just not a run-of-the-mill flop your body over the goal line kind of a touchdown, because think about it, that does not take a whole lot of skill. I mean, any dumb slob can do that from 1 yard out, just give them the ball, let them fall over that goal line. No. This one was one of a great athletic achievement. One of extraordinary ability. And for those of you who may remember, now these many years ago, I want to thank you very much. Now, for those of you who don't remember, somewhat fuzzy, quite not in focus, and although you may remember that the Steelers had perked up in the game, and yeah, maybe Bleier did do something, but I would like to make sure that before we leave here today, is that touchdown will be forever etched in your memories. So I'd like to take you back briefly in time to the game almost many years ago, the second time that we were playing the Cowboys. Well, we knew it was going to be a very toughly fought battle because of the fact that you just don't play the Cowboys twice after you beat them the first time. And expect them to roll over and play dead the second time. And that game in seesaw back and forth, especially in the first half, when all of a sudden the score was tied, 14-14. And we got the ball back. But more importantly, we got what? We got momentum on our side. And we started to drive the ball down the field. And as we're driving the ball down the field, all of a sudden we found ourselves down on the 7-yard line. And it was 3rd down with 1 yard to go for a first down. Picture this. As we broke out of that huddle, Franco Harris, my running mate, is lined up behind Terry Bradshaw, our quarterback. I am to the right of Franco. The play that had been called was just a quick pass play to the halfback, myself, where I'd go at a 45-degree angle, down to the line of scrimmage, cut down the line of scrimmage at another 45-degree angle, catch the ball over my shoulder, take a 90-degree turn up the field, pick up 1, 2, 3 yards, depending on how the Cowboys would react, and they always reacted well. Well, when the ball was snapped, none of that happened. I did break out of my stance, but my opponent jumped across that line of scrimmage and took my path away from me, so the best I could do was cut it short. So I took that 90-degree turn right up in front of him. Now, in the meantime, Bradshaw was faking to Franco Harris into the line of scrimmage, and when he pulled that ball out, looking for that receiver, myself, down that line of scrimmage, and when he did not spot me, being the smart, intelligent quarterback that we perceived him to be, it finally dawned on him that it might be a broken play. So he took the ball underneath his arm and he started to scramble to his right. And as he's scrambling to his right, that sideline was looming up. Opposite side of him, larger than life, Neanderthal beings with lobotomies, chasing him down. And then it happened, maybe once in a lifetime. Will you ever experience it? When all time just seems to stand still. And our eyes met across the field. Now 40 yards separating us, and under pressure he released the ball, maybe a little too quickly, maybe a little too high. And I came floating into that end zone. And as I came floating into that end zone, I leaped all 5'9.5" inches of me, with all my weight straight up in the air as high as I could go. I don't know, 18, 19, 20 feet. I kind of forget. I grabbed that ball, I came down across that goal line and gave us a score and a lead. And a lead we never relinquished, but that is not why I wear this ring. Oh no, I wear this ring because it happens to be the largest and gaudiest of all four. But you have to understand that every time that I wear these rings, I mean, for me, these rings truly are a symbol. And they're important, as all symbols in our lives are important, because they're really constant reminders of the successes that we've had, failures we've experienced, the depths that we've prevailed, heights we've achieved, of the constant barriers that we'll ever come to be able to get to, a constant reminder that getting to the top and becoming the best, or becoming number one, or ultimately winning a Super Bowl just doesn't happen. But yet it takes all those ingredients that we've come to learn. It takes hard work and dedication, it takes a commitment and passion, but it also takes leadership and people and a vision and a belief system all shoved into a capsule that today, no matter what we may do, we love to call a team. And throughout our lives, we've heard many definitions of the word team. How about that acronym? T-E-A-M. Together, everyone achieves more.